Yes, I know I need a haircut. And I know I just uploaded another video of yet another gas car. And today we're finally going to talk about some electric car cancellations. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to find a glimmer of hope, to something to get excited about in the EV industry here. I mean, given the state of the world and the economy and political BS, yeah, that's gonna be a little hard to come by. So unfortunately, we're going to have to discuss now a few EV cancellations. And this one, I'm not too surprised about, but I do find it a bit unfortunate that it has gotten to this point. I'm referring to the Ford F-150 Lightning. Ford has, some time ago, decided it's not going to make that truck anymore because it's not particularly profitable and it's not selling all that well, and it's just an unfortunate scenario for Ford, and it's now an unfortunate scenario for EV drivers because they are losing honestly pretty solid option in the market. So without further ado, let's cue the intro and dive deeper into why Ford killed the Lightning. I don't know if I've ever given my full thoughts on the Ford F-150 Lightning before, but basically here are my general thoughts. It is a pretty interesting truck in the fact that for the most part, the usability of it isn't actually that affected by it switching to electric. Because when you look at the other electric pickups on the market, like, okay, let's take a look at another competitor that we know for a long time, the Chevy Silverado EV. Thing is, with that car, they kind of changed some of the dimensions and the design of that truck to the point where, well, you can't necessarily use the same truck accessories that you're used to, like lockable boxes in the bed of the truck. Well, I mean, that's what the frunk is for, but various accessories like that, toppers, and there's a few things that a bit of a challenge on some of our trucks, particularly with the Chevy Silverado EV and the Cybertruck, as they use a little slightly untraditional bed designs, the Cybertruck being the biggest offender in having the slanted bed rails. That makes toppers and various other bed accessories a little difficult. But the F-150 Lightning, all they did with that truck is take their standard F-150 and shove a bunch of batteries in it. That's pretty much all they had to do. And as a result, you could continue to use said truck accessories that everybody's used to, be it toppers or tonneau covers or even built-in bed campers, that type of stuff. And so I appreciated the truck's form factor for that purpose, even though pretty much just like every other truck on the market you can buy today, it's way bigger than it needs to be. There's not really all that much I can do about that. That's the auto industry's problem. Nonetheless, I actually thought it was a good idea. Just keep a traditional truck, the same form factor that we're all used to, so that way it doesn't break compatibility with a lot of truck accessories, and just make it fully electric. And yeah, it does have that pro, and because it had that pro, a lot of companies that rely on trucks to carry their equipment from place to place, well, they found the F-150 Lightning to be pretty useful, as it's, well, didn't really reinvent the truck form factor, maintaining compatibility with so many truck accessories today. That was my biggest number one appreciation for that. But other than that, there's really not that much else I can appreciate about the truck. The 150 kilowatt charging is just criminally slow for a pickup truck, especially considering the battery pack size. And I'm not going to go into the whole NACS versus CCS thing. You know my thoughts on that if you've watched this channel for how many years at this point. Although I will give Ford credit, that F-150 was one of the first electric vehicles out there to officially gain supercharger support, aside from Teslas. We all know Teslas already had it, but it's criminally slow, 150 kilowatt charging. That was really the only thing that miffed me about it. But I'm not an F-150 Lightning owner. I've never even had the opportunity to sit in one, even though I've had a local Ford dealer that once upon a time had an F-150 Lightning sit on their lot for over 18 months. Yes, that's how long they were trying to move it. And in fact, I think this is where we actually start finally getting into the details as to why did Ford kill this thing off? Because if you ask any F-150 Lightning owner out there what they think of their truck, most of them tell you that they would not want to drive anything else. I guess that is gotta count for something, right? But nonetheless, why is it not selling and why is Ford canceling it? So here's where I think we begin our issues. Starting off with when it first came out, we had a bit of an issue with price increase after price increase after price increase, and albeit, okay, yeah, that was during when COVID came in and inflation started to go insane and supply chains were completely disrupted because nobody's working the factory lines. So yeah, it was a bit unfortunate that we had the constant price increase after price increase after price increase. The MSRP increasing wasn't necessarily in Ford's control. The supply chain was just total whack during that development cycle. But unfortunately, despite that, Ford did their best to keep the MSRP rising as much as possible. They had no control over what the dealerships were trying to sell these trucks for. And this, I think, was what hurt the truck sales the most. And I think that's how my local Ford dealer happened to have had a truck sit on their lot for well over a year. I'm talking like 18, almost 20 months. They struggled to move that thing. And the reason why was because all these dealers started marking them up. And it wasn't by a couple $1,000s here and there. We're talking like upwards of $30,000. That's just an insane markup on an already expensive MSRP from the manufacturer. And as a result, it deterred a lot of buyers and it made them question, why am I buying this electric truck when I can get the gas equivalent for so much cheaper? And so early initial pricing did not make sense at all. And that's how they unfortunately ended up getting the ball rolling. It was off to a rocky start to begin with. Now, eventually the tax credit came in and people got a little tired of paying well over $100,000 for a truck. Eventually the dealers kind of started to realize, hey, we can't keep marking our trucks up like 30 grand or something, because who's going to want to buy something that costs 30 grand more than what it should? And we also happen to have had the tax credit come in, which for better or for worse did some help with subsidizing some of these sales. But I don't think it was enough, because I think during the initial launch of the F-150, it gave dealers the impression that, oh, not that many people want these trucks to begin with. And because that was the impression on the dealerships, they didn't want to bother even attempting to sell them. They'd rather just figure out how to sell whatever inventory they had left. And then once that's it, they were done ordering in trucks. And okay, I know I might be sounding salty about this because this might not be the case with every single Ford dealer out there, but my Ford dealer is so bad at selling electric cars like you would not believe. They actually have one of the strongest negative sentiments I have ever seen towards EVs. So much so that you can't even buy a Mach-E or an E-Transit from them. They used to sell a few Mach-E's here and there, but they've completely stopped ordering them. They don't bother to try to sell Mach-E's anymore. And I haven't seen a Lightning on their lots for the past 2 years. I mean, given that they took almost 2 years to sell that initial Lightning, yeah, I'm not surprised that they didn't buy another one to try to sell for another 2 years since. But yeah, the slow sales initially due to the stupid high price tags, well, obviously that wasn't able to move inventory all that fast. And then, oh, because the dealerships are like, oh, nobody's gonna buy this, so let's not even bother stocking inventory. It's just a negative sentiment. And then because salesmen are salesmen, they don't care really what it is that they're putting you in. They just want to make sure you walk in and you walk out with the vehicle ASAP. But the problem is, not that many people understand electric cars and electric trucks either. And as a result, because people don't understand everything about it, they tend to lean on the default information that they're used to, which is, I know gas makes sense. Okay, that's what I'm sticking with. I'm buying a gas F-150. I don't want to experiment around with that because I have to learn something if I wanted to try the Lightning. And so yes, there was a strong lack of education going on with electric trucks, and that also didn't help sell those things. And I find it a real shame because it turns out really when you actually put someone in almost any electric vehicle, I found does a good job at selling itself. There's not that many EVs that you can put people in and people will say, oh, this doesn't make sense. This is just stupid and dumb. The only ones I can think of that are like that are VinFast, Fisker Ocean. There's a few others that I could think of just on it's not the point of this video. But according to a Tom Malogny from State of Charge on the internet, who happens to own one of these F-150 Lightnings, he has stated time and time again, he's lent his truck out to so many of his friends. And every time that they borrow the truck and return it to him, they end up walking away pretty impressed and actually kind of considering a purchase. Aside from the one disadvantage that we all know about electric pickups as they currently stand right now, towing long distance with them is not a great experience. Now, the actual towing experience, negating the range and the charging infrastructure, the actual driving and towing experience is actually amazing, phenomenal with electric cars. But the problem is the infrastructure is not set up to deal with electric trucks with their trailers. And on top of that, people are finding out that, once you hook a trailer up to your truck, your range basically gets cut in half. Not because of weight, like what most people think. It's actually because of aerodynamics. Aerodynamics makes a huge difference. And this is a known fact that's spread not just throughout the EV community, but even the gas truck community, to keep people away from the idea of even considering an electric truck. And honestly, if you do tow long distance, I also won't recommend to you an electric pickup truck. I will not do it. But if you're towing short distances, or you're towing something small like a boat or something, and for one, if you happen to live where I do in the northern part of the US of A, you're not going to use that boat for more than 6 months out of the year, because half the year the lakes and waters are going to be frozen and you're not using it. So it's like, you're not doing it that frequently. So basically, the number one thing that will make me tell people whether to buy an electric truck if they're considering one in the first place or not is, do they tow long distance frequently? And if the answer to that is yes, you do tow long distance frequently, then no, you're probably better off buying a gas or a diesel. But if you do not tow very frequently long distance, or if you do tow frequently but short distances, then yeah, actually the F-150 Lightning is pretty recommendable. But of course, that information doesn't get across, and most people never learn about this unless they sit in the vehicle. But because dealerships in general are so bad at putting people's butts in seats that they never actually get to experience the electric lifestyle in the first place, that, and for whatever reason, people just have this strange opposition to learning something. Like, they don't want to learn new skills. They don't want to learn extra knowledge to increase their ability to make good decisions. Nope, people these days are stubborn and they do not want to learn anything new. They just want to stay status quo for better and worse. And so, yeah, a lot of this comes down to dealerships not knowing how to sell the truck, and then the fact that there's this humongous stigma out there about electric trucks just not making sense for anyone, when I honestly don't think that's true. I think electric trucks make sense for a lot of people as long as they're not going into long distance frequent towing applications. But I digress. Apparently, for most people, it didn't matter. The Lightning did not sell well enough for Ford to justify to keep making it, which is a bit of a shame for the entire electric truck industry, because apparently the F-150 Lightning literally was the best-selling EV pickup, and now the best-selling EV pickup is going out of business. It's unfortunate that this is what's happening, and, well, I will say this. Despite that Ford is canceling the Lightning, they're not canceling the name of it. They're actually just going to re-engineer it for the one task that people keep complaining about electric trucks. Because electric trucks apparently can't tow long distance at all, and there's no charging infrastructure to be able to handle towing long distances, Ford has decided they are going to stick a gas engine to run a generator and charge the electric battery on your road trip. Yeah, that's what they're basically doing. They're just adding a gas engine to generate electricity for the battery if you happen to run low on juice. And on one hand, I can see how this makes sense. It gives you the main towing mechanic benefits of an electric powertrain. Guys, did you actually know that freight trains, diesel trains that are on rails and such, did you actually know that those aren't actually mechanically powered by the diesel engines? Most of these diesel engines are actually just powering onboard generators, generating electricity for electric motors. That's how most of these freight trains work, primarily because they need that low in torque in order to get these things moving. But yeah, there's a lot of benefit to driving with an electric mechanical setup. It's just right now, the trucks don't have the endurance to do it long distance. And so their theory, all right, let's basically do what we did with the freight trains. We'll stick an engine in to act as a generator for the battery, so that way we can maintain our electric driving benefits, but have the fueling infrastructure of gas. So I understand where they're going with this, and I see this going two ways where I will say, yes, this makes sense for someone, or no, this does not make sense for someone. Where the only application in which I think having a gas engine acting as a generator for your electric truck, the only application I can think of is, once again, frequent long distance towing. And I'm going to put even more emphasis on the frequent part. If you tow long distance only 2 times a year, I really don't think this engine thing is going to be worth considering. And here's why. You see, the problem here with extended range electric vehicles, or EREVs as they call them, is oftentimes, despite that these vehicles are primarily battery power dominant and people's commutes are so freaking short, most of the time the gas engine never really needs to fire up except when you are doing long distance driving. And when you let the gas engine sit like that for months and months and months at a time, that's bad. It's actually very unhealthy for an engine to do absolutely nothing for months on end. And so if you do buy this new F-150 Lightning with a engine gas generator and such, if you don't actually use that gas engine and you just do your standard 40-ish mile commute, maybe you tow your boat to the lake on the occasion and such, but if you're not doing long distance towing frequently enough, that engine is going to become more of a liability, as it's going to be sitting. Oh, you still need to do oil changes and still going to need to replace gaskets here and there. And again, if this engine sits for months at a time, it's going to go stale, it's going to go stagnant, and what you want to try to start it up, it's going to be pretty darn cranky to the point where it might bust itself. Which, people complain about EV fires all the time. Imagine if we have EREVs catch on fire because the engines go stagnant, and when they try to start it up, they just explode. If you do not plan on towing frequently with this, honestly, I wouldn't even consider it. I would not consider having an engine in my electric truck. That's all I have to say. And well, that's what Ford is planning too. So is this going to help F-150 Lightning sales? I don't know. It's just unfortunate that we are losing another player in the full electric space, particularly in the truck space, because I thought the F-150 Lightning was a very solid option that I could actually easily recommend to anyone that still wants traditional truck form factor. And now I now legit don't have any more recommendations. Rivian doesn't really follow any standards for bed dimensions and such, so that means you need custom accessories for that. And of course you got the Silverado EV with its sails on the bed, and then the Cybertruck slant rails, so that makes bed accessories a bit of a challenge. And yeah, it's pretty unfortunate that we're losing the Ford F-150 Lightning as we know it. So that's all I have to say. What are your guys' thoughts? Are you grateful Ford decided to kick the bucket on this, or you excited to see an extended range EV Ford F-150 Lightning, or are you upset about this? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor and interact with the stuff below. This is the Random Alpha Drive, signing out.